It's time for Waking Up with Wesley. Today's forecast and weather-wide discussion with WLOX First Alert Weather Senior Meteorologist Wesley Williams.
Waking Up with Wesley is sponsored by Exclusive Auto Brokers. For the best deals on wheels, visit Exclusive Auto Brokers on Beatline Road in Long Beach.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for waking up with Wesley. I'm Senior Meteorologist Wesley Williams. Well, this is a morning with Friday off to a wet start. For some of you, we've seen some scattered showers and thunderstorms in parts of the area, and we're going to talk more about the rain potential. But first, I want to look ahead and talk about how the heat is going to make a comeback. This is the time of year when you say rain, rain. If it goes away, then the heat comes back to play. And that's summer in a nutshell, right? So let's take a look at the high temperatures in the area for today, for your Friday. And we're looking at highs only into the 80s in South Mississippi. So this is, not that terrible for a summer heat. Pardon me, we're doing pretty well today, as we don't have to worry about the temperature going close to 100 like it did a few days ago. But let's take a look if we fast forward all the way to next week and look at these numbers. Whoa, that's like 10 hotter than what it is today, right? We go from upper 80s to upper 90s by the time we go to next Tuesday. And literally the main reason why is because we're going to see a return to a hot and dry high pressure pattern. In the short term, we've got low pressure nearby, and that's keeping the rain chances relatively high, which kind of keeps the heat in check. But once we get to next week, we start to see this increasing trend beginning maybe Sunday, but definitely by next Monday, and continuing into early next week. Now, maybe we could get the rain chances to creep up a little bit toward the second half of the next week, and that could kind of fight off some of the heat. We can take a look at more detailed numbers here for South Mississippi. Today, there's really not much of a difference whether you're on the coast or inland. Looks like highs mainly in the upper 80s. Tomorrow will be around 90, so not much of an increase. But then by Sunday, starting to see that increase. A place like Ocean Springs will go from 89 on Saturday to 93 on Sunday. A place like Poplarville will go from 90 on Saturday to 95 on Sunday. And then look at this, a place like Poplarville could be almost like 100 by next Monday on that thermometer, just a couple of degrees away from that. Even on the coast, we're finding sizzling mid-90s. And like I said, that's really just because we're losing those rain chances. So the higher rain chances right now, it's one big plus to kind of fighting off the heat for Friday into parts of Saturday. Once we get deeper into the weekend and early next week, you don't have as much rain around, so that's going to easily cause things to heat up for us. Now, if we take a look at the time lapses, I thought this was kind of cool. Normally, I only do one time lapse at a time, but I thought double up. Let's go 2 of them in a row for your Friday. So we've got Biloxi and Gulfport's time lapse rolling from just before 7 in the morning. And I've got them rolling because you can see rain and sun in both of those views. So let's take a look at the Biloxi one. Let's just focus on Biloxi. So first of all, I'll wait for this to restart. Let's rewind it all the way to the beginning. All right, so in Biloxi at 6:40 in the morning on the left side of the screen there, no rain whatsoever. We're just looking at a few clouds, but no rain. But as this goes through time, watch how the sun comes out, then the rain comes down, then we get a little bit of sunshine in Biloxi, and then maybe some rain in the distance. There's another rain shower. Now the sun again. This is literally on and off, right? Okay, let's see if we can do the same thing over in Gulfport. At Gulfport at 6:40 in the morning, just some clouds, but now let's let the time lapse roll and watch the right side of the screen. We got some clouds. Okay, the sun's coming out, and then got some rain moving in, and then the sun's coming back out, and probably going to see some rain move in eventually after that. So literal definition of on and off rain is right there before your eyes, the ground truth of the matter, already happening within the first few hours of the day. And I suspect this kind of thing will continue for the remainder of Friday. It's not going to rain the whole day, but there will be periods of rain showers that occur as we're tapping into that plentiful moisture from the Gulf on the right side of a weak tropical wave off to our west. So the problem is sometimes these little downpours could come down pretty heavily, and that could cause some localized street flooding. Primarily in municipal areas, in urbanized areas, is where you're going to see most of that street flooding. If it happens, that's where it's probably going to happen. And we'll discuss the flood threat in a greater detail in a little bit. But here's the picture. Here's what I was talking about. Look off toward the Texas coast, and it's easy to see the swirl. We can see this swirling mass of rain and clouds. That's that low, that Gulf low, that weak tropical wave that has spent the last few days moving from east to west in the northern Gulf. Today is its last day to give it its best shot at becoming a tropical system, maybe a depression, but time's running out, and eventually it's going to run ashore in Texas by tomorrow, and that will completely bring an end to the potential for tropical development with that. The National Weather Service only gives it a low chance to become a depression or storm, so we're really not concerned about that. But when you have a low like that situated off to the west of Mississippi, remember you have that counterclockwise circulation around low pressure, and so when you have the counterclockwise circulation around a low pressure system, with us being on the east side of that, that pulls in that moisture from the Gulf. Places that are on the west side of that, here in northern and eastern Texas, there's no moisture coming their way, right? They're on the left side, so they're actually seeing kind of drier air wrapping around on the western side of that. So that's how low pressure works, at least in the Gulf. When you are east of it, your weather's going to be wetter. When you are west of it, there's a potential for your weather to be drier, depending on the exact location of the low. We can take a look at the futurecast with this, and you'll notice that for Friday, you do have that zone in the East Gulf where there's that low chance of a depression forming. Oh, by the way, and you see these showers and storms perking up on the right side of that. And then we fast forward to tomorrow, and that area of low pressure has already moved inland, so there's no longer going to be a chance of development, I suspect. However, there is still a high pressure moving in from the east. And remember, with high pressure, the circulation is opposite of low pressure. So with high pressure, you have clockwise circulation, like this. And with us being seeing the wind coming in from the south, from the Gulf, that makes it easy for some of these rain showers to pop up. So we could still see some scattered showers and storms on Saturday in South Mississippi. But the closer that high pressure gets, notice the places that are closer to it, right? Notice Florida, southern Georgia. You don't see much rain there. Once you're right beneath that high pressure, it's pressing down on the air and limiting the vertical growth of rain clouds. So that's why Saturday might be a dryish type day in Florida, and probably hot too. And Florida's weather eventually becomes Mississippi's weather once that high pressure moves more to the west on Sunday. Now, being very technical about it with this modeling, it does show the high just off to our east. So that could still allow for maybe a slim chance of rain at times on Sunday, some showers, certainly for Louisiana, they're west of the high. So Louisiana has a pretty decent chance of rain showers and storms on Sunday. Mississippi is closer to the actual highs, so maybe we'll get a little bit of a reduction in rain coverage. And then once you go even farther off toward the east, again, all these areas, Florida Panhandle, Georgia, Alabama, remember, they are seeing that wind coming in around the northern side of the high. That's dry. So they're actually seeing drier conditions. The farther east you go, the high. It's all about location, 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 and wind direction, wind direction, wind direction when it comes to rain chances on the Gulf Coast in the summer season regarding low pressure and high pressure. So this is a look at the rain potential and why I'm a little bit concerned that maybe some of the streets in local municipalities like Gulfport, Biloxi, Ocean Springs, St. Martin, Goshen, Moss Point, Pascagoula, those are areas that I am a little concerned about seeing maybe some of the heavier downpours. Maybe we could see some rain amounts topping 2 inches, maybe even topping 3 inches in a few places as we go into the next few days. It looks like a good bet that most of us will at least see 1 inch of rain out of this. And if we break it down day by day, you can see for Friday and Friday night, that appears to be the heaviest rain potential. You see that purple color there. We'll make this a bit larger on your screen in case you can't see it. But there's the purple color there for Harrison and Jackson counties. So maybe that could be where we see some of the heaviest rain, some of the on and off showers and storms Friday night. Now you go to Saturday night, it still looks wet, but you don't see that purple color anymore. So maybe not as many intense downpours. And then eventually you go to Sunday, and it looks like you don't really see much rain at all, as that high pressure will be closing in on us. But just keep in mind for your weekend plans, there's that risk of flooding for Friday and Friday night. It's not a high risk, it's a low risk, but it is not zero. So someone in this green zone could wind up seeing flooding at some point today or tonight. You know, will it be the Mississippi coast? Or will it instead be Houston and not the Mississippi coast? Or will it instead be Jackson and not the Mississippi coast? That's what we'll keep an eye on. Someone in that green zone could wind up with some of the more urban areas, localized street flooding in some of the municipalities there. It could also be New Orleans, or maybe it really is South Mississippi. It just depends on how the rain sets up somewhere in that green zone. That is the target area for the risk of flooding. And look at Saturday. We're also seeing the target area for the risk of flooding continue to indicate parts of Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, maybe Alabama could wind up with some of the localized street flooding in some of those areas. Again, only a low probability of that happening, but it's not zero. The good news is that it still looks like Sunday is a day that will feature little to no risk of flooding rain. So if you have some weekend plans, right now looking pretty good for the second half of the weekend, even though we'll still see not a 0% chance for rain on Sunday. Maybe we'll just see fewer showers and more rain-free hours. Of course, as those rain chances decrease, the temperatures will tick up, and before you know it, we'll get back to that summer heat. I wonder if we'll see some of those alerts issued for our coast heading into parts of next Monday, Tuesday. We might see a heat advisory, for example, for the first few days of the work week next week. So keep that in mind if some of you have back to school plans early next week, and we might be monitoring the risk of dangerous heat because of above normal temperatures and dangerous heat index. Those will both be a possibility around the first part of next week. Right now, it looks like maybe we'll see a little bit of an uptick in the rain potential toward the second half of next week, and that could help some of the temperatures to kind of reduce just a smidge. So something to keep an eye on down the line. Well, I hope that you have a fantastic Friday. That'll pretty much do it for this edition of Waking Up with Wesley. I've been Senior Meteorologist Wesley Williams. Take care, and we'll see you again next time.
Waking Up with Wesley has been sponsored by Exclusive Auto Brokers. For the best deals on wheels, visit Exclusive Auto Brokers on Beatline Road in Long Beach.